G. Manually move the setting of the fixed length distance. We just set 100 mm. We also can set 80 mm. Press OK. Press F8. Restore to 0. Press to 80 mm. Auto pause. Press to move back 80 automatically. After setting the distance, manually press the arrow keys to stop the machine after moving to the specified distance. X. Modify cutting speed. When the machine is not moving, press Modify speed. Current speed is 1500 mm. It means run 1500 mm per minute. After manually entering the speed, press Enter. Confirm the modification speed. Y. Manual speed is the speed of walking during operation. Machine speed of press arrow keys. Currently set is 3000, it means run 3000 mm per minute. F. 3 mode switching for manually moving. It's a fixed length approach, and it can be transformed into a linked way. The first one is fixed length. Press the arrow key to move to the set distance. The second one is linkage. Press the arrow key to walk, press again to stop. The third one is jog. Hold the arrow key to walk, loosen to stop. N. The setting of the slid compensation value. Press Shift N to modify. The slid compensation value is half of the actual slid value. For example, the actual cut slid is 4 mm. Half of the slid is 2 mm. Set the slid compensation value to 2 mm. After modification, press Enter. Press and hold Shift M to switch. Conversion of 3 cutting modes. The first one is plasma. The second one is gas cutting. The third one is demo mode. Space bar. Press on the main interface. Can switch to the cutting interface. Del. Delete key. Used to modify and delete parameters and edit mode. Generally, you can use it when editing the program manually. The first button, Ignition, is a flame cut ignition switch that can turn on preheated oxygen, but cannot turn off preheated oxygen. This button is not recommended. The second one is Preheat. Preheating oxygen button can turn the preheated oxygen on and off. It can turn on and off the low pressure oxygen and acetylene. Press the low pressure preheating to start the ignition. Press it to turn it off. Press it before cutting, ignition and tuning. The third one is Plasma. Plasma arcing test button. After pressing, the plasma will start to arc or cut. Generally used to determine whether the plasma works before cutting. If the plasma arc voltage level adjuster is not installed, this button is the plasma arc start test button. The fourth one is Piercing. Flame height adjuster switch. Generally small CNC does not choose to increase the flame, so this button is not used. The fifth one is Cut Oxy. High pressure oxygen test switch. The sixth one is Close. Close button can close all previously open switches. F1. Graphics library. This machine has 49 kinds of graphics. Press the arrow keys, select a graphic, press F8 to confirm, enter the interface to modify the size. There are lead in, lead out, size 1, size 2. Now we modify the lead in line 5 mm. The lead out line is 5 mm. The size 1 is 30 mm. The size 2 is 30 mm. So that is the graphic you want to cut. Press OK. Press F1 is the size of the piece. The size of the piece is the size of a workpiece cut, and F2 is the size of the hole, which refers to the size of the current frame and cuts from the inside of the figure when cutting. Introduce the operation process of copying the UDisk program to the host computer. Insert the USB flash drive first. There is a USB interface here. Press F2, and then press F2 UDisk file and press to switch the file. You can turn the page, select the specified file and press F6 to copy to the hard disk. Pop up the window to modify the file name. Press Enter to confirm. Prompt: the copy is successful. Press F1 hard file on the hard disk file. Select the file you just copied and press F8 confirm or Enter to transfer the graphic. F3 Parts option: modify the file before cutting. Press F1 to locate the starting point. There are 5 positioning points: F center, F2 lower left, F3 lower right, F4 upper left, F5 upper right, F2 angle correction. Angle correction has 2 functions: F1 plate correction, F2 input angle. Input angle: the current input is 45 degrees, the graph will rotate 45 degrees counterclockwise, and the input 45-degree graph will rotate 45 degrees clockwise. The correction of the steel plate is mainly for the plate not being positively placed, not parallel with the main track. Corrected by F3 steel plate, the coordinates are cleared before use, and aligned. The position of the steel plate at the starting point is cut, and then the arrow keys are used to move to the corresponding point just positioned. Press Y to confirm the second point. At this time, the graph is rotated and corrected according to 2 angles. F3 repetitive arrangement: there are 3 types of arrangement. F1 array, F2 interlaced, F3 stack. A square: we want to typeset a few rows and a few columns, set to 5 lines. The line spacing is 7 mm, 3 columns, the spacing is also 7 mm. Enter confirm. F4 proportional scaling is to enlarge and reduce the size of the current graphic. The current graphic is a 100 x 100 mm square. We press F4 scale to enter, 2 twice, which means that the current graphic size is doubled to 200 x 200 mm. F5 select line, select number, select the number of lines. 1 line of valid code is 1 line, and select the number of holes. Each hole is cut into 1 hole. The line selection is mainly used to skip multiple parts for cutting. For example, there are 100 rows of parameters. It is required to start cutting on the 20th line, or you can input from the 5th hole. F6 code editing: after editing the code, the code structure of the current graphic will be displayed, which can be used to learn G-code programming or modify the graphic. F7 graphics restore: pressing graphics restore will restore all the changes made in the component options. F8 confirm saves the current changes and returns to the main interface. Arc test. Piercing time. Adjust piercing time according to thickness of metal sheets. IHS height and IHS test. This one is IHS test. IHS means distance from cutting head to metal surface. Now we change IHS heights bigger to see how cutting torch move. Press IHS test, then you see cutting torch lower. Now we change IHS height smaller to see change. Press IHS test. IHS height should bigger than cutting height. As cutting torch should in high position when start cutting, in case cutting nozzles broken by spattered sparks. This is menu, used to set parameters of THC. But we do not suggest users change parameters, as all parameters set it well before delivery. If change, THC may could not work or have problem. Up and down of cutting torch. If pressing up/down when cutting, machine shall stop auto height control, then cutting torch go up or down. Lose up/down buttons, cutting torch will back to balance height of arc voltage. Setting button mainly controls the distance between the nozzle on the plasma cutting torch and the steel plate during the cutting process. The number can be adjusted. Generally, we recommend setting the distance between the nozzle and the steel plate in the cutting to be about 5 mm. Automatic manual button. When the automatic light is on, the ARC voltage height controller starts. According to what you set, if you say a distance of 5 mm, the cutting process keep cutting at a height of 5 mm. When you hit the manual, you have to adjust it according to the rising and falling of the cutting torch. Cut and adjust at the entering the boot up state. We can press any key to enter the main interface. We can press any key to enter. Part 3. Set the cutting method and parameters. We are going to cut a circle with 30 mm diameter and thickness is 5 mm. Let's find the circle first. The lead in wire setting is 2 mm and the lead out wire is also 2 mm. Radius size is set to 15 mm. There is a partial size and whole size in the lower left corner. We have to cut a circle and choose its size. If you make a hole in a steel plate, you can choose the whole size. Please press F8 or enter to confirm. Press X, choose the speed and plasma current size. Press Shift N to modify the curve value. In general, the actual curve is about 3 mm and the preset curve is 1.5 mm on the machine. The setting on the machine is half of the actual curve. If the cutting part is 1 mm smaller, please increase the curve value by 0.5 mm. If the cutting part is 1 mm larger, please reduce the curve value by 0.5 mm. Switching mode. Press Shift M, and then switch to plasma cutting mode. Part 4. Starting point selection.